Hi, it's Brian Newman with the Spotlight of Business Owner Show, and today we're thrilled to have Palmer Czaplicki. Hi, Palmer, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Brian. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. He's with Lion Share Wealth and a great business. I've been looking at the information on his website. But before we get into the business, Palmer, can you just share with us a little bit about your past, your career path and how you ended up founding the Lion Share Wealth?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I'll tell a little bit of a story. And hello, everybody. I'm Palmer, and I help people and businesses pay as little to the government as possible. I remember one time I was attempting to find a parking spot in a crowded lot. I went down aisle after aisle, not able to find anything. And in that moment, I realized that even though I couldn't see an available spot, there was a good chance that someone else could from a different perspective. But then finally, after some searching, I was finally able to find a spot. And financial planning is often like searching for a parking spot in a crowded lot. So I help people see a new path. And so that's what I do. Now, Brian, the way I got into this is actually it starts in about 2011. I started working with a large financial company, and this company does underwriting for large corporations that you've heard of. And even though I was focused more on the sales side, I was shown this world of high finance and actuarial and underwriting, and I gained this exposure. And I really didn't think too much of it. But then years later, I started working with a law firm. And this law firm was pretty unique that they take these real high level tax strategies to help people and businesses pay as little in taxes as possible, protect their reputation, grow wealth tax free. And this is something that I had never seen or been exposed to. And I had a front row seat to see the inner workings of these kinds of strategies. And this was in early 2020. And so I went through the process to get licensed and accredited and bonded and all that good stuff. And I started my own agency in the latter part of 2020. And that was 4 years ago now. And I've been doing it ever since, providing these same types of strategies to the mom and pop level.
Oh, okay. Yeah, who's an ideal client of yours, or who would be an ideal client?
An ideal client would be somebody who's willing to receive education. And so that's what I really consider I do, Brian, is that I'm an educator and I help people identify these hidden in plain sight strategies and uncover these strategies that the ultra wealthy have been using for decades. So they are visible in plain sight. Oftentimes I find that most people they're not open to new information, right? We're kind of set in their ways. So if somebody is set in their ways, I it's very difficult to break through. And so if somebody's willing to learn, that would be my ideal type of client that I work with.
Oh, okay. And then how do you help people and businesses?
Well, my main goal is to help people be proactive instead of reactive. Using another car analogy is to look out of the windshield to prepare accordingly instead of looking in the rear view mirror at what happened in the past, right? Everybody can do is look forward and move forward. So I do that, that's planning to reduce your tax burden every single year, putting in strategies to create tax-free wealth for life and minimize the downturns of the market in your life and creating generational wealth starting with you.
Oh, okay. In your encounters, like how many people actually have a financial strategy in place?
My short answer is hardly any.
Oh,
And the
wow.
reason why is I don't really consider a 401k to be a sound financial strategy. Unfortunately for many people that signed up for them when they became popular about 40 years ago and diligently paid into them for their entire lives, well, they are now facing the reality that they don't have enough to retire comfortably. There's many downsides to a 401k that most people choose to ignore. And I believe it's because there has been a lack of information on alternatives. I sit down with people that are approaching retirement or recently retired, and they realize that this strategy that they paid into their entire lives won't be enough to last them for the rest of their lives because their retirement got cut in half in 2008. I like to call it, it went from a 401k down to a 201k.
Oh,
And if that were to happen again in retirement, it's like it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to recover from that. And the professionals that we rely on aren't providing this information. So most people don't know about different strategies. For instance, a question I often ask people is, when is the last time your tax professional came to you with an exciting idea to save money next year? Well, when I ask this, about 99% of the time, the answer is never. Another example I ask people is, when was the last time that your financial professional came to you with an exciting idea to protect your money if the market drops next year? Once again, the answer I get is never. The slogan is buy and hold forever, right? It'll come back. It's never been higher. Well, if
yeah,
the
I've
market's
heard
never
that.
been higher, isn't now a good time to get out? Or when it goes
Yes.
down, it's going to recover. Now, both are true, but does that really serve you?
Oh, wow. I know that's happened to me before. We've been told, yeah, just hold the course, you know what I mean? And things will be fine. And no, so
Well, see, that worked fine, Brian. That worked fine in your working years. And that's actually advantageous to you is when the market is going down, you're able to buy more and more shares with the same dollar. And then you write it up. But it's the
uh-huh.
opposite in your retirement because as the market is going down, you're liquidating every single month for your retirement and you're having to sell more and more shares for the same amount of income.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, so yeah, I was going to ask you, what role did non-traditional financial products play in your approach with your clients?
That's all I do is non-traditional. They are only non-traditional to the people that haven't had the opportunity to learn about these strategies. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, up until about 40 years ago, the 401k was largely unheard of, right? In the financial beach, it's a relatively new idea. And funny how all of a sudden it's considered traditional because it's what we've told by our employers, it's what we're told by our professionals. So ultimately, I educate and implement what the ultra wealthy know about and have actively done for over a century. Once again, a question that I often ask people when they're dead set on their 401k is, have you heard of the Rockefellers? Most people have. They're a wealthy, multi-generational family. My follow-up question is, do you think a Rockefeller has a 401k? While I can't prove it, I highly doubt it.
Oh, okay. How do you accomplish that?
By being proactive instead of reactive. Earlier I gave the car example of looking through the windshield instead of the rearview mirror. And see, most tax professionals that you go to every single year, whether you're a business or an individual, their main goal is to be compliant. They want to make sure that all the correct boxes are filled, the signatures are in the right places, the T's are crossed, and the I's are dotted. But the reality is, if you were to print out the entire tax code on paper, the stack of paper would be taller than a giraffe. Now, most professionals only utilize about 1 foot of that tax code, about the size of a Pomeranian dog. So for creating generational wealth is using those hidden in plain sight strategies that I mentioned earlier, much like attempting to find a parking spot, but you can't find anything. but somebody else can, right? What's the difference? One person can see it, but the other person can. It's all about your vantage point. They are right in front of you. You just need to be able to see them. So that's what I consider myself to be as an educator, so that I can bring these hidden in plain sight strategies to your vision in front of you.
Okay. Yeah, Palmer. Yeah, can you let people know what's the best way to get in touch with you? As you guys can see, he's a wealth of knowledge. I would reach out to him. Would you prefer them call you, or do you want them to go to your website? What do you recommend?
The best thing would be to call me, because you can look at my website, you can get lost in the pages, and at the end of the day feel like nothing applies to you. But if you call me directly, I see my phone number there behind you, 602-641-2911. I can determine within about 5 or 10 minutes that what would be the best course of action for you. Maybe there wouldn't be a best course of action for you, and I'll tell you right there on the spot.
Oh, okay. All right. No, so can you share a success story where you helped a client achieve financial goals?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of them. The first one is for a business owner that I actually sold his business, and it's something that he did for 20 years about. And I was able to save him nearly half of his tax bill that would have otherwise gone to Uncle Sam.
Oh,
And so
wow.
now he gets to keep, I mean, it's a lot. I can't tell the exact figure, but it's a
Yeah.
significant portion that he was then able to put into a place, into a strategy where now it's growing for the rest of his life tax free, that he can access anytime he wants. There's another example of a lady in her early 40s that had a 401k worth about $500,000. And the thing is, with a 401k, it's completely unpredictable. You have no idea how much it's going to be worth in a year from now, let alone 20 years from now. Nobody can go to their financial professional and ask them what their 401k will be worth in 1, 5, or 25 years from now, because they don't know.
Hmm.
So, what I was able to do was actually take this lady's 401k, convert it into a place where now it's accessible and growing tax free, that will literally create tens of millions of tax free income in her lifetime.
Oh,
And
wow.
based on the examples I've seen and people's reality that have a 401k, they don't get anything close to that.
Oh, that's unbelievable. I know, myself, I'm like in retirement mode, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, what would you recommend is the ideal age that someone starts putting money away and planning for the future? It seems like it's harder and harder nowadays, you know what I mean? Because of the economy being so bad. But yeah, what would you recommend is a good age?
I've seen all extremes, Brian. I've set up a wealth strategy for somebody that's under 10 years old. Obviously, it was their parents that did it for them, having the foresight to build their child's future. I just did another help somebody else in their 20s. I've had somebody up into the 70s. And so, really, it depends on where somebody is in their life. I mean, are they looking for something long term? Are they looking for something short term? Are they looking at creating a family legacy? Well, it doesn't matter if you're 9 years old or 99 years old or anything in between. One of the strategies that I do can fit your goals. That's what it ultimately depends on. And quite frankly, just by, in this, how we're meeting now, I can't determine what somebody's goal is that's watching this, but that's why a 5 minute phone call comes into effect, where I ask you what your goal is. What do you want to achieve? How will you know you achieve that? What would you say to your spouse or your best friend, excited to say that I achieved this because of this? So that's ultimately my education goal, is to help you realize that's a tangible goal that you can actually see.
Okay. Yeah, so just once again, just to wrap it up, if you could let people know what's the best way to get in touch with you.
Call me. 602-641-2911. It's over your shoulder there on the left side. It's also in my name right here. It really is the best way. And, when you call me, if I answer, great, we'll have a conversation. If I don't, I get back to everybody within 24 hours, oftentimes same day.
Oh, okay, great. Well, for those tuning in, definitely give Palmer a call, and you'll be glad you did. Palmer, thank you for being on the show. It's great to see you again.
Thank you, Brian.